Today, I've got somebody on the show. Now, he's not a CEO of a company, he's not a board member of a company to talk about artificial intelligence, cognitive computing, to talk about the future of AI in this world. On the show today, I've got a very special person. He's all of 14 years old. And not that is what makes him interesting. What makes him interesting is what the kind of things he's done. On the show today, I've got Tanmay Bakshi, a neural network architect, IBM champion for cloud. Tanmay, so many things. How do you manage so many things in a single day?
Well, I mean, really, I believe that all this is fun, right? It's not really me managing this, because the thing is, I love to do things like developing neural networks, applying neural networks, and really sharing what I know about these technologies with the rest of the world. It's not something I need to manage, it's more about a sort of hobby that I've got, right? I love doing this, I'm really passionate about it. And really, one of the main reasons behind that would really be because I actually originally started coding when I was around 5 years old.
Okay.
Because my dad used to work as a computer programmer, and that originally got me interested. I mean, as a 5-year-old, even watching a computer, show my name on the screen, even changing the color of the screen would be so fascinating to me. I wanted to find out more about how it works.
What was the first line of code you ever wrote? And what did it do?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily be able to say the very first line, but I could say the first sort of real programs that I remember would be a calculator in C, and a little database to keep track of an ice cream shop in Fox Pro. So generally really simple applications, but programming sort of built on me, grew on me as this hobby, this thing I love to do. At 9 years old, I even had my very first iOS app, T-Tables, accepted into the App Store. And then around there, though, I kind of started to lose my interest in technology. That sort of became when I had to manage my time with technology around 10 years old. And the reason would be because I felt technology would be really limited, really literal, right? The moment you code something in, it starts becoming obsolete. But then when I was 11 years old, that all changed because I stumbled upon IBM Watson.
Okay.
And so I stumbled upon artificial intelligence, and ever since then I've been hooked to machine learning and how you can actually use neural networks to allow computers to understand abstract concepts and really data that up until now only we humans could understand.
So, you mentioned a lot of things, AI, cognitive, and how you mentioned about some applications. So sometimes technology does become obsolete in certain functions. But if I take a step back, you talked about how you were inspired looking at your father doing programming and how it inspired you. But what made you get into programming? What part of programming interested you in? Like, wow, this is what it does. It's just not about making an app do this.
Exactly.
Because you created an app at the age of 9.
Yes. And actually, the backstory behind that would be originally when I started coding. I mean, as you can tell, as a 5-year-old, there's no motive for me to program, right? Like at 5 years old, I don't even know that jobs exist. I don't know the concept of a job, right? I don't know that people pay to program, right? I just think the computer's another toy for me to play with.
Sure.
And so originally, it's just sort of my fascination with computers and technology that brought me into it. But over time, I started to realize the sort of impact that technology actually has on our lives. Like, just for example, I was in grade 3, and funny story, I actually had a test coming up.
Okay.
And just like any other grade 3 student, I'm not really good at my times tables, but I can actually code in a Windows application in Visual Basic.
Wow.
And so what I decided to do was so what I decided to do was create a Windows application to help me practice my times tables.
Wow.
And so I practiced my times tables, and it actually helped me get a pretty good score on the test.
Lovely.
And so I started to realize that, hey, that application helped me out so much. Why shouldn't I take that application, expand it, and allow others to benefit from it as well? And so I created my first iOS app at 8 years old, and it was accepted into the App Store on Valentine's Day of 2013, February 14th. And in fact, funny story, on February 14th, my very first iOS app, T-Tables, was accepted into the store. And now February 14th, tomorrow, I've got a keynote talking code day at Bangalore. So this is going to be really fun.
Interesting. So at that same point of time, you also started putting up all these videos on YouTube. You have your own YouTube channels.
Yes.
Help me understand. I mean, at this age, what you started coding, even like you're 14 now, you started coding way back. What kind of weird requests have you ever got on through your YouTube channel? So many. What kind of followers? With followers, you never know. They can be 18-year-olds, 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds asking you questions on here. So, what kind of questions what kind of queries have you got through your YouTube channel?
Sure. Now, actually, quite a few different types of queries. And really what I believe, in fact, the entire reason I have the YouTube channel is because I believe there's a huge sort of gap of resources. Not of knowledge, but of resources for people to learn. Because, like, for example, people know how to program, but they don't take that knowledge and share it back with the rest of the community to make it easier for them to get into it as well. And so whenever I, release a new YouTube video or upload a new blog post or anything of that sort, what happens is there are always tens or hundreds of requests coming in from all different kinds of media saying, how can I start coding? How can I implement IBM Watson? How can I implement this algorithm? And I wouldn't necessarily say I've gotten any weird requests so far. But what I do know is that I love helping out these people that reach out to me for all different demographics, right? Like, in fact, what I like to say, the youngest person I've probably helped so far would be around 8 or 9 years old, and the oldest person that I've helped so far would be around 74. And so there's a huge range here, and I love taking all their queries about how to create applications, how to improve applications, how to fix errors, help them implement algorithms. There's even some people that really just ask me what types of algorithms can I implement here, like what neural networks work here, should I use machine learning in this use case, right? All these types of questions, which I really love to take whenever I know about them, and we share it back with them so that they can build better applications without having to rediscover the wheel or reinvent fire.
What's your favorite programming language?
Well, my favorite programming language would depend on the task. Now, if I'm doing Apple development or generally scripting, probably Swift or Python would work. GPU development was probably C, of course. If I'm doing any machine learning development, Python, web development, Node.js, really depends on the use case and the actual platform. But it's a huge variety.
Okay. I hate to ask the next question, but I'll still go ahead and ask this. A lot of people who are going to watch this have asked me in terms of, how can I become like him? How do I even become half of what he is today? Great question, but how do you manage your day? Like from traveling from, Toronto to coming here, going across the world. Someday you're in Dubai, the other day you're downtown in Australia. How do you manage it there? What about your schooling? How do you go about it?
Sure. So first of all, again, really what I love to do is mainly development of AI, but also sharing what I know about it, because I really want to see this type of technology in the hands of more people and more developers. And so I, first of all, again, really count this as part of the fun, right? It's really fun going from Toronto to Bangalore, that's what we're doing right now, Australia, Dubai, really wherever it may be. And so, again, it's not necessarily something I need to manage, but if you're asking, for example, how do I keep up with the schooling, right? Luckily, I'm homeschooled, and so it becomes easy to do that. And plus, with the homeschooling, I'm also able to take whatever I learn and also target that towards technology. So it's a win-win situation there. So homeschooling allows me to do that. And of course, programming is all done in the cloud practically at this point, right? So I don't even need necessarily physical access to my computers. I just have a laptop and I can instantly access the cloud. So generally, I'm able to manage all that into my schedule, and of course, again, really have fun on the way as I'm taking whatever I know about this and sharing it with the rest of the community.
Lovely. And the last year or so, you've been associated with IBM for a long time. I think initially a couple of employees who started helping you with the research. They ended up being your mentors.
Yes, exactly.
So you've been associated with IBM. You've also been associated with the likes of Apple, Microsoft, Google. So whom do you work with specifically?
Well,
I know you roll with IBM completely, but what about the other organizations?
No. In fact, even with IBM, it's not like I work with or for IBM, right? It's not like they pay me to talk about Watson or something. But instead, what happens is Watson was actually the first AI product that I stumbled upon, and Watson turns out to be the one that I have used in a lot of my applications. Of course, I also do things like IBM Power AI, which is something that I'm very interested in. I also use things like TensorFlow, CNTK, Keras, all these sorts of libraries. And luckily, while I'm not limited to any company, right? Like with Apple, I'm not limited to IBM. What I do is I take the technologies that all these companies try and provide, and I try and mix them so that we're able to create really powerful combinations of services. Like just for example, there's a project that I'm working on called the Cognitive Story. And just in brief, the point of the Cognitive Story is to augment people's lives, and the first sort of goal that we're working towards is really helping out those with special needs. And more specifically, the first person that we're trying to help is Boo. She's a quadriplegic girl who lives just north of Toronto. Now again, as I mentioned, she's quadriplegic. She cannot communicate whatsoever. And so what we're trying to do is understand her electroencephalogram brainwaves via deep learning algorithms that I implement in order to basically try and decipher those into what she's trying to communicate. Now, the thing is, though, this is such a complex problem, right?
How do you understand brainwaves?
Exactly. So basically, what I'm trying to do is create neural networks that can find very, very slight patterns in this huge amount of data that thinks, when this part of her brain goes off and she moves in this certain way, then that would indicate a yes. But this ever so slightly different movement, which is again very variable kind of movement, this range of movement would mean no. And so those types of intents. But then again, though, it's a complex problem. We've got really deep neural networks, and we've got neural networks that need a lot of training time.
Yes.
And so I'm able to combine things like IBM Power AI and IBM Watson to train, and then once I'm done training, how do we actually use it? We can't have a computer with you all the time. She's going to be wearing a headset all the time, right?
Exactly.
But then, what we decided to do is use one of the only mobile computers that can actually do this in the world, the iPhone 10.
Okay.
The iPhone 10 with Core ML will allow us to practically instantaneously run an extremely deep learning model with the A11, and we should be able to theoretically have a system that understands her EEG brainwaves in real time and allows her to communicate in so much more of a natural way. So basically, I take the technologies that these different companies offer and basically try and mash them up in a way that provides some kind of value for as many people as possible.
So do you
go backward in a neural network like that. So there are some limitations, but mostly there are ways to find out why AI made a decision, just not the most, I guess you could say, flexible, and they don't, sometimes they don't work as well as you'd like to. But again, there are always tons of research teams working towards that, because that is a big problem we need to solve if we want AI to be extremely prevalent.
Exactly. Also, I've read a lot about your work in terms of healthcare and cognitive. What's happening on the healthcare side of things from your side? Because there's a lot of talk everywhere across the world, the last 3 or 4 years about Watson doing this with healthcare, Watson doing that with healthcare. But what about the overall barrage of cognitive going into healthcare, and what are you doing specifically with it? Could you help us understand?
Sure, thank you. So really, I believe that, as you mentioned, AI is being used practically everywhere in the world. Any field that is even slightly touched by technology will be impacted by AI, even agriculture, anything. But healthcare is one that I believe will be impacted most. And the reason I say that is because of two things. Not only is AI perfect for healthcare, but healthcare is perfect for AI. See, and so the reason I say that, now there are some sort of criteria that an AI system needs to meet, or a field needs to meet for an AI system to be able to, impact it and become useful. Some of these include data, quality data, how much data there is. They include the actual humans, whether or not humans are efficient at working with the data. And if you think about it, actually some interesting statistics. Over in the US alone, actually, in 2015 only, 60 billion medical images were generated.
Correct.
One year. That's huge. That's mind-bogglingly huge. And it's also estimated, though, that 64% of a radiologist's time goes to non-interpretive tasks.
Wow.
So that's a lot of time wasted. A lot of time wasted. And then, to put the cherry on top, in 2035, it's estimated that there will be a 12.9 million worker shortage in the field of healthcare globally. Exactly. There is already a huge shortage, and there will be an even bigger shortage in the future. So, really what I believe, the reason AI is so impactful here is because now we can take this field where we've got a lot of data, and humans aren't very efficient at working with it, and we can train AI systems to augment the people who are working with it, to allow them to work with that data in a more efficient way. And what I'm doing in this field are, for example, I'm working on, as I mentioned, the cognitive story, but I'm also working on a few other projects, like a mental health project. Now this project, of course, there are lots of initiatives trying to do suicide prevention, right? And it's very important. But the thing is, by the time we get to the suicide prevention stage, it's almost always too late. Right? And so what I believe is that instead of doing suicide prevention, why don't we have the end goal of depression prevention? Right? And so, using machine learning, I'm creating an early warning system for depression in teens. And so the way, So the way that works is we're able to take numerous different data points, public, private, all these sorts of data points, including HealthKit to see how much they're exercising on your phone, on your Apple Watch, Fitbit, whatever. We're able to take your SMS to see who and what you're communicating, Twitter and Facebook. We're able to take your GPS to see where you go, your browsing history. And that might seem a little bit intrusive, but the best part is that data never leaves your phone. Never goes to the cloud, it's always on your phone, never looked at by another human, entirely encrypted, and only analyzed by
So basically what you're trying to tell me is your platform, the one you've created, is basically analyzing the social activity of a user on a smartphone or say a smartwatch, and then you make sense of that data in terms of if he has sent a message, these are the words he's used in the message, this is what it means.
Exactly. And the best part is, because we're using neural networks, we don't say, oh, if they use these words and they're depressed. The neural network figures out which words in which order in which context to which person would mean that they're depressed. It automatically figures out that entire context. And then what we're able to understand is the impact that depression has on those data points, which becomes very interesting to see. And we can even do things like mental health-based e-therapy. Like just for example, in Australia alone, the 1-800 toll-free kids helplines for mental health, 40% of the calls that come into them aren't answered yearly. That's a huge amount of people that aren't getting help. Okay, but through AI, we can take the simple cases, divert them to an AI, and the complex cases that need human staff attention can be given to humans for them to deal with, right? Make it so much more efficient. I'm even working on a project now. This one's really, really interesting. Sometimes, when people are doing clinical trials of drugs, of course, it'll go through without any problems.
Good.
But then, when it's actually sent out to the mass public, there's so many more people using it that sometimes a drug that's given to a very specific kind of person will cause an adverse event.
Whoa.
And the worst part is, let's just say you take a drug and a little while later you feel a backache, you feel a headache, whatever these symptoms may be. There's no definitive way to say, was that just a coincidental placebo, or was that just, or was that an actual adverse event to the drug? And so, FDA in the US requires, and a few other countries require, that if you experience an adverse event, you must call a helpline, give them your information, the drug you took, the adverse event, and they'll log it down, and it's an entirely public data set for anyone to use and download, right? It's not paid. And so what I'm doing is I'm using neural networks, and in collaboration with Grand Valley Data Science, where I'm actually part of the honorary advisor there and part of the faculty, and they're actually a startup in Coimbatore. And so I'm actually working with them, and I'm creating neural network systems that can predict adverse events and determine whether or not adverse events are actually linked to certain drugs. Really interesting projects. I believe that because of the way that this field is, it's going to be really, really impactful, and it's going to be saving and augmenting millions of people's lives across the globe.
Wow. So this is something you developed on your own in collaboration with on IBM's platform and another startup that you did talk about.
Yes.
What was the name of the startup you told me?
Grand Valley Data Science.
Grand Valley Data Science.
Exactly.
Great.
They do a lot of stuff with data science and machine learning. Goodness.
This is one thing that I clearly see these two directions. One, you want to go big in healthcare and how cognitive can change the way healthcare is done.
Exactly.
It's fake, because the first time people are collecting healthcare data. It was never like that even 3 or 4 years back. The actual concrete structured data about healthcare patients being collected.
Exactly.
The second you said about depression. Great idea once again.
Thank you.
What else do you want to change through AI in the world? And there are so many. I mean, it's like
there's so many things.
If you go into these lanes in Bangalore, there are so many AI startups. There are so many analytics.
Exactly.
What do you want to change through AI in the next few years, apart from healthcare and depression?
Yes. Now again, AI is a huge technology, and there's not just one field that it's impacting. So I'm mainly focused on healthcare, but what I believe is that an innovation in AI in the field of gaming can instantly affect the one in healthcare. Right? Because the thing is, it's just the algorithm. The use case, because it's AI, doesn't matter. The algorithm is what matters. Like, for example, Jeffrey Hinton a few weeks ago, came up with this amazing, literally revolutionary idea for capsule networks. It quite literally throw CNNs out of the water. Of course, there are some kind of issues to work around there, but that applied to digit recognition, handwritten digit recognition, can instantly be applied to melanoma and skin cancer detection. Right? It's an instant sort of shift as long as you have the right data. And so really what I believe is that there are so many world problems that can instantly be solved by AI. Like just for example, if we were to look outside right now, there's so much traffic here. It's actually causing more than just traffic. They're causing accidents, not just car accidents, pedestrian accidents. They're causing a lot of pollution. Imagine how many cars are just idling down there doing nothing, putting pollution into the air. But imagine through self-driving cars, if we could eliminate that traffic, eliminate the accidents, and at the same time reduce the pollution. Imagine how much better and more efficient this entire city, this entire country would be. And so really what I believe here is that using the power of AI and really, first of all, advancing the AI algorithms themselves will then find ways to impact the world. Like just for example, a little while ago, IBM Watson worked on a project, and this project basically allows farmers and those in agriculture to actually reduce the amount of water they use and at the same time get more yield. Because if you do it at a more efficient schedule, then of course Watson figures out that schedule and you're able to get more yield and use less water. So generally there's so many places where AI can impact the world that I believe once we're able to get better algorithms, once we're able to bridge gaps, like for example between the machine learning experts and the domain experts through systems like IBM Power AI Vision, for example, I think this is going to be very, very powerful technology to solve this kind of problems.
Also, the other thing, a couple of last things. I mean, you yourself are a developer. You became a developer at a very young age. I mean, if you look at, there's so many young developers in our country. I mean, and you interact with them. You have a YouTube channel. You interact with them. You tell them. I mean, you see the issues they have, like from a common mindset.
Yes.
What are the issues that you think are there with the developer community today, and what more needs to be done, especially because either they're going in one direction or you need them to develop more skills. What are the issues that you say primarily with the developer community?
Sure.
The ones that you have talked to.
Yes, sure. Now, if I were to take a look at the problems in the developer community, it would be hard to mention them specifically, but what I would say, one of the main problems that I see is that there are a lot of people that are willing to, work on AI, work on machine learning, but then they don't really make that open source and available to the rest of the public, right? One thing that's very important is to ensure that whatever work you do, maybe not the entire thing, but at least the algorithms should be open source. And I agree that proprietary software is important. Without it, this open source wouldn't exist. But it's very important to ensure that we as developers don't just learn, but then take whatever we learn about the technology and share it back with the rest of the developer community. Because the thing is, if I'm building, for example, a system that allows me to answer natural language questions through AI, then what happens is if I develop it and I don't share it with the rest of the world, say there's another person trying to develop that in the field of healthcare and about oncologists.
So you also put up most of your work on GitHub?
Exactly. They have to spend an extra year developing what I already developed and then build on top of that. No point to it. Why don't I just take my algorithm as a developer, provide it to them, allow them to build off of it and create a better system. So I believe that one of the problems is, of course, open source and ensuring that more developers are open to sharing what they know about the technology with other developers. It's also the openness to new algorithms, new techniques. We need to ensure that whenever we see these types of new algorithms, we approach it with this kind of open mind, right? And try to see how can this be applied in the use cases that we're currently seeing. Like, for example, even in a use case where you don't really think AI could be useful, it could be very, very useful. Any type of optimization problems, all these kind of things are perfect for AI, where it has to learn on its own. Maybe it has to learn from mimicking humans, right? All these sorts of things are perfect for AI. And so while I wouldn't necessarily say there's something specifically wrong with, say, like the developer community here in India, or really even globally, there are a few sort of things that we need to work around and ensure that we're more open to doing. And I think that over time, as these technologies grow and evolve, the developer community will evolve with them as well.
Lovely. I mean, there's so many more things I want to talk about, but that was a lovely conversation with you, Tanmay. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
Thank you.
Thanks.